Not on Sky doing commentary on a game. It's tongue in cheek. Exactly. It's quite obvious that Haaland's not going to pick him up and run with him. Yes, that. Yeah. It's figure of speech. And I just think when someone gets so upset about someone in a media or a podcast saying something about them, to come out and start basically saying they can say what they want and doing that after a game and what else? Come to my house and all that. And it's like, grow up.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. So obviously, very good weekend for Manchester United, beating Man City 2-0 at home. And it actually, could have even been more. I thought it was a very good performance in Michael Carrick's first game. So obviously, there's been a lot of reaction about that. But also, there's been a lot of talk as well about the Lisandro Martinez versus, Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes situation. Paul Scholes and Nicky Butt made some comments on that podcast. Before the match, Lisandro Martinez then, has fired back, and then Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes essentially gave their opinion today. As always, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. But yeah, just want to go ahead and break this down now. Essentially, Lisandro Martinez has, come back to the original comments of Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes. Essentially, what Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes said was that, Haaland, quote unquote, would essentially treat Lisandro Martinez like a toddler, pick him up and carry him and put him on his back. For me, just straight away, I feel like the comments were quite silly. Nicky Butt's come out and said that they were tongue-in-cheek. They were, I understand that. But I feel like the comments were quite silly for a few different reasons. Number one, Lisandro Martinez has actually played against Erling Haaland many times, and he's got the better of him on numerous occasions. It was obviously Jamie Carragher when Lisandro Martinez first came to Manchester United. That was, questioning his height, saying, he's not going to be tall enough. He's not going to, work in this league. And he proved, and Lisandro Martinez proved Jamie Carragher wrong. You're also talking about someone that's won a World Cup. So yeah, those comments to me were, they were just a bit childish. And Lisandro Martinez essentially, fired back at them. He just said, honestly, he can say whatever he wants. I told him already, if he wants to say something to me, he can come to wherever he wants, to my house, wherever, I don't care. And I think for me, I respect the relations when they want to help the club, because everyone can talk on the television. But when you see them here face to face, no one says anything in your face. Obviously, Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes have taken those comments very personally. Nicky Butt telling Lisandro Martinez to grow up. And again, I feel like there's absolutely nothing wrong with what Lisandro Martinez said, really. This situation is, it's kind of like Casemiro and Jamie Carragher, also kind of like Cristiano Ronaldo and Jamie Carragher. You can't just say on the television, and, you can't just go out there and say, Casemiro, leave the football before the football leaves you. You can't say those things and expect a good, to be buddy in person. The same way Jamie Carragher's, blaming Cristiano Ronaldo, he's an issue at Manchester. He is the issue. And then, Cristiano Ronaldo comes by you and you try and shake his hand. These professionals, Casemiro, Lisandro Martinez, Cristiano Ronaldo, they take their job seriously. They're not, it's one thing hearing criticism, but it's another thing, trying to, then come up to someone and, be buddy with them. For Paul Scholes and Nicky Butt, that class of Manchester United, obviously, I love those legends. Paul Scholes as a footballer, he's one of my favorite footballers of all time. Exceptional player, but, as soon as he's become a pundit, he's just, he's been very negative. And I think the big thing with Lisandro Martinez is, he's one of the actual dedicated players that we've got. I feel like physically he's good enough. I think he's got the right mindset, and on the ball, his technical ability is good enough as well. He's a dedicated, consummate professional. So, he's not the player that you should be attacking. There are bigger issues at the club than Lisandro Martinez. So I felt like, those comments were not right. And good on Lisandro Martinez to, prove them both wrong. And Lisandro Martinez was exceptional on the weekend. Nicky Butt, again, they're saying that, Lisandro took these comments personally. I've got nothing wrong with that. I felt like there was nothing wrong with what Lisandro Martinez said. And essentially, when you see him in person, don't try and, be all, close and best friends and things like that. So, as well, I think you just have to look at the type of player Lisandro Martinez is. He's obviously, he's Argentinian as well. And he's a fiery character. So I got no issues with what Lisandro Martinez said. Again, it's been a good week for Manchester United. It's a big game against Arsenal, and I've got, I think Lisandro Martinez is one of those players that, he benefits from this. I've got no problem with him being angry or, wanting a point to prove and things like that. So yeah, for me, I think it's a good thing. I would like some of the ex-players, kind of, sit back a little bit when it comes to Manchester United. I felt like a lot of these ex-players, Gary Neville especially, was a massive issue when Ole was in charge. They were biased, and, I think Ole could have, and should have probably been sacked a lot earlier. They were biased in the media. Roy Keane was biased as well, saying he deserves more time. And essentially, I think that was to the detriment of the club. So, yeah, I would like to see some of these ex-players, take go in the background a little bit more. For me, Lisandro Martinez, he's not one of the issues. He's a fantastic player. And I'm definitely happy to have him at the club. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. As always, interested in what you guys think and what you guys have got to say. So, yeah, definitely let me know in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll see you guys in the next one shortly.